Ja, Jadan Sixkiller, Serishkijinishlan, Donathan Bashishti, Bipatoni Dashate, Hopi Cherokee Dashanella. Hello, my name is Jadan Sixkiller. I'm currently a junior at the University of Arizona. I am from a small town north of Flagstaff called Tuba City. When I first entered Native SOAR, my main goal was to focus on working with students. I needed time in the classroom, and to be honest, my advisor mentioned this class, and I just went with it. I was aware that working with students was an important part of this program, but I didn't know that making friends, memories, and growing up as an Indigenous person was going to be something I gained as well. When I started this semester, I was very unaware of the many groups of natives that were on campus. I never really knew about NASA and a lot of the resources that are directed toward Native students. Before coming into this class, I felt so different from a lot of my classmates because we never had the same experiences. They didn't grow up on the reservations like I did. So for most of my college experience, I never was able to experience a welcoming space. My first impression as I walked into the classroom was pure shock. Growing up on a singular reservation, you don't see a lot of students that come from different tribes. At home, I know there were a lot of students that didn't decide to further their education. They didn't have a lot of resources, the motivation, or even the support system to encourage them to go to school. I remember after the first day of classes, I told my parents that I was so surprised that there were so many Native students on campus. The sight of a Native student gathered up in the classroom was such a fulfilling sight to see, knowing that it wasn't just me and my couple of Native friends that decided to continue on and go to a university or just college in general. As soon as I started conversations, I felt so comforted knowing that I could talk and relate to some of my peers in the classroom. I remember on the first day, a couple of us began to talk, and a few minutes later, our slang started to show as we became more comfortable. As I continued to grow, Native SOAR became more of a community to rely on. Native SOAR stands for Student Outreach, Access, and Resiliency. The more I continued to learn from this course, the more I began to understand the importance of what they are trying to teach Indigenous students as they continue their education. Throughout this course, I was able to feel the presence of other Native people and knew that I was not alone. I was able to find a sense of community while learning more about the harsh reality us as Indigenous people go through on a daily basis. On campus, there are about 3.7% of Indigenous students enrolled. On a primarily white-based campus, this class was a way to get away from a lot of that. Having a sense of belonging to a community and knowing where you come from is a central value in many tribal traditions and teaching, said Nelson and Young Bull in 2015. With Native SOAR, I was able to learn about the importance of finding a sense of belonging and how it is capable of motivating you to do better, especially as a minority going into higher education. Us as Indigenous people will always want each other to succeed. We will go out of our way to find the resources we need, and when your community does that for you, it makes you want to give back and do as much as you can to be better, especially in higher education because our graduation rates are so low. I also want to emphasize our college attendance rate is 24%, while the majority is 41%. There aren't as many Indigenous students receiving and pursuing higher education. Knowing that has motivated me enough to push through my personal obstacles, difficult classes, and any situation I am in to do my best in school. In every class session, we were able to voice comments and share our thoughts on various topics through many sharing circles that took place. In the article Home Away from Home, Native American Students' Sense of Belonging, they discuss how sharing circles were a way to share your thoughts to help others get a better understanding of your own thought process and your experiences with certain topics. Throughout this class and our sharing circles, we were able to reach mutual thinking, which I felt was important to get a grasp on the challenges we face as Indigenous students. For example, we are underrepresented, we face financial burdens, we struggle to build relationships with those in the majority, and most of all, the educational system has not been created through an Indigenous lens. This alone makes us closer as a community and ensures that our opinions are valid. I was fortunate enough to take part in the Friday online Zoom session. In the beginning, our mentees were not as responsive, but as our sessions continued, they began to become more comfortable enough to share their thoughts and opinions on the topics we discussed on Zoom. In the article, Indigenous Knowledge Realize, understand the role of service learning at the intersection of being a mentor and a college-going American Indian. They gathered input from mentors, and an important piece I'd pull from that is knowing that we are from the same ethnic background, not the same tribe. There are cultural ties like humor, the importance of food, eating, like stuff like that we can relate at a very surface level. That was Nelson and Young Bull in 2015. The mentees were able to relate to some of us, not just tribal-wise, but they were able to have a connection when it came to majors, sports, or music. We were able to develop a closer bond over Zoom through our interests, and I believe that was what made our Zoom sessions awesome. During one of our classes, we were able to meet with Amanda Tuccini. I really enjoyed the words she was willing to share with us. Her talks about our power and the monsters we need to fight off are what stuck with me. In her book, Native Presence and Sovereignty in College, Sustaining Indigenous Weapons to Defeat Systemic Monsters, she discusses the indigenous weapons that we withhold as Native people. I felt as though she was able to apply that to her presentation as well. We as indigenous people prioritize Ke, and that's what makes us strong and resilient. We have our family, our traditions, and beliefs that keep us strong, both individually and as a community. During her presentation, she emphasized that we have to be ready to fight the monsters in our daily lives. For example, the rooted in settler colonism, financial hardship monster, and the rooted in assimilation. These words she shared with us is something that I have begun applying to my daily life. I rely more on my family, my community, my tobacco smoke, and resilience to get through my days. Touching these words have been one of my greatest takeaways from this class. Not only that, but without Native SOAR, I wouldn't be as proud as where I came from as I am now. I wouldn't be able to see how important it is to continue my education and return it back to my community. This class has been an eye-opener, and I will continue to do my best to be successful.